Okay. Hey guys, I do not know how to get to that other one. So I'm going to come here. So let me see if I can find the. Let me see if I can do that. Okay, I'm trying to go to the other one and put in the chat to come to this one, but I don't know how to make that work. Oh my gosh, I don't know what I did wrong. I must have set up some kind of settings. Like, okay, if you're showing up, hold on one second. I'm trying to figure out how to bring everybody over to this one. And I'll have to fix it later on the editing end. I don't even know if you guys can hear me. Can you hear me? Let's see. Let me go over to this other one where everybody's probably sitting and waiting and putting the, let's see, there's a live one. Let's see, go to the live control room. Oh my gosh, what a nightmare, guys. Let's see, paste. Okay, come over there. This one isn't working. All right, let's see if we can. Oh, okay. Some people are finding their way over here. So, are you hearing me on this one or are you hearing me on both? I'm hoping it's not on both. I'm hoping it's just on one. What a fiasco. I could see the chat, I could see the box, and it kept saying something about stream through the software or something crazy. I don't stream through the software, so I must have hit some kind of weird button that okay. I must have hit some kind of weird button that that made it some kind of setting. It's messed up. I'm leaving it up there so that if anybody shows up, they can see to come over here. That's the best I can do. I was here like 5 minutes after it started and I could not figure out how to make it start. So, yeah, technology. Okay. Anyway, so we've got Purple Violet. Good afternoon. And we have my main man, Stormy, and she's joining us. And hopefully people will start to make their way through and eventually, find us here. So, okay. Now let's go ahead and start chatting. We are here to talk about the topic today is going to be, I cannot hear myself in the, I can't hear myself in the, hello, can you hear me? In here, I can't hear myself here. So let's see. See if I can stick it in here if that will help. Hello, hello, hello. I don't know. I'm just gonna have to do this and hope that you can just hear me. Okay. So the topic today is solo parenting, and the reason why I want to talk about that today is because that has basically what's been driving like my life situation this forever for the last 4.5 years actually, but like big time recently. So I'm making a bigger video that I'm going to release. I figured I would just wait until after December because I'm doing Vlogmas, and so that's like a video every day. And so I didn't want to bombard you guys with videos every day and then pull the big video out. So that'll be coming in January, but it's about the 11 parenting mistakes that I made when I became widowed. And so that will be releasing next month. But a lot of the stuff is surfacing from what's been going on lately. So if you guys are solo parents, first of all, let's go ahead and define the difference between solo parent and single parent, because a lot of people who are not widowed, they like to say that we're single parents, and we're really not. There's a few main differences, and some of the biggest differences are that when you're a single parent, I mean, the situations could be varied, but when you're a single parent, at least there is another parent out there. Stormy would probably say, yeah, right. But we're not talking about deadbeat dads necessarily, but I know that does happen too. You might feel more like a solo parent if that's the case. But um, when you divorce, there are hopefully still two parents in the picture. So you might have visitation. They might have visitation. So you might sometimes get some kind of a breathing room or a break or a time when you get to send your kids to the other parent so that you can sort of recharge and get your energy back up. You might be getting child support, and sometimes when we're solo parents, we get money for Social Security and things like that. But it's just different because when you're a solo parent, there is no backup ever. You might be lucky and have some grandparents. You might be lucky and have some friends that might take the kids for you and, keep them for a little bit. But for the most part, it's all you all the time. And so it's exhausting. And on top of that, you're grieving yourself. And on top of that, your kids are grieving too. And so you got a grieving mom or dad, you got grieving kids, and you have nobody to come in and like give you any kind of break ever. And so after a while, it starts to wear down on you. Sometimes that's the only reason why you feel like you have a reason to get up. It's just, because you got to take care of your kids, but it's really tiring. And I guess in my mind, I felt like after a while, it would start to get better. Like it would start to level out, like the grief it never goes away. I know that, but like we would learn how to live with it a little better, and it wouldn't be like a grenade going off in their lives on a daily. But that really hasn't been the case. Okay. I've got 4 kids, and it seems like there's always at least one of them whose life is a dumpster fire at any given moment. And so, and as soon as we get one of them, the fire kind of burning to where it's at a manageable level, another one will pop up with some problems. And so it seems to be that seems to happen, all the time. Let me see if I'm going to try to put these guys on. Let me see. I'm going to try something. I can't hear myself. And so I would like to be able to hear myself. Let's see if this will work. Hello, hello, hello. No, I don't think that's going to work either. Goodness. Oh well. Okay. It is what it is. So, yeah. So by the time Dewey got sick, this was 4.5 years ago. And we have 4 kids. The oldest one had already graduated from high school. So she had been graduated for a couple of years. And so she was, she came back and lived with us when he got sick to help me with the kids so that I could help, so I could keep going to work. And his mom came in and helped with his treatments and things like that. So we kind of all, worked as a team to try to make everything happen. But she had already graduated from high school, so she was kind of a little bit older and more, set in her development and things like that. So she wasn't still trying to figure out exactly who she was going to become. She was sort of farther along in her maturity level by then. The next one was a 9th grader, and she was 15. She had just turned 15. And then my son was 12 at the time, I think. And then our youngest one was 7. She was 6 when he was sick, and then she turned 7 right before he died. So, starting with the teenager, the 15-year-old, I mean, at first she acted like totally normal, like nothing was wrong because she was in denial and she was numb and all that. And it didn't take long. And so, her life started to just implode, and it was mostly school stuff. So she was just going wild. She had a lot of anxiety and grief, and her emotions were everywhere. And she was gifted, but she could not succeed in school. Hello, Jenny. Thanks for finding us. I'm glad you made your way over here. We had some technical difficulties. So the second oldest one, she was in regular school. Actually, she was in the same school where I was teaching. And so that caused a problem for me because when she started getting in trouble, it reflected on me. And so it was kind of sucking me in and making me look bad to my boss. And so it was, it was causing problems. And so she never dropped out, but she went from there. She tried online school. She tried homeschool. She tried, I don't even remember, to be honest, all the different things that she tried, but she finally ended up going to a school called Penn Foster Online. And it's a high school and a college. And it's one class at a time. And so all she had to focus on was one class. And so she'd take the class, pass, take the class, pass. And then she ended up graduating. And to be honest, she ended up graduating a semester early because she's really smart. It was just it was all the drama and all the kids. And it was kind of weird because also during that time, in that 2 years that she was still at the high school with me, we had a slew of losses at our school. We had three students commit suicide in a year and a half time, and then two other students were killed. Like, one died in a car accident, and one got hit by a car in the middle of the street and left to die in the road. And actually, my daughter was the last person that texted him 15 minutes before he got hit. And all of the kids that died in those 2 years, she knew. She was either really close friends with them, or she had a class with them. So every time she suffered a loss, her grief started over again. And so it was really tough for her. So she just, her schooling situation was just like a roller coaster. Well, now let's go to the son. My son was 12 at the time when Dewey died, but he's on the spectrum, and he had gone to public school until he was in second grade. And the kids would pick on him and pick on him and pick on him and pick on him until he would get so tired of getting picked on that he would lash out, and push somebody or throw something or throw a temper tantrum or something, and then he would get in trouble. And so the last time he went to the principal's office, and the principal called Dewey, and Dewey was very strict, and he believed in spanking and being real strict with them. He was a drill sergeant in the Army. So he got on the phone with him and said, "Son, you got two choices. You can straighten up and go back to class, or I can come and get you. But if I come and get you, when I get you home, I'm going to beat your ass." And this was him, at what, 8 years old. And he said, "Just go ahead and pick me up." And so we knew then that if he would rather get picked up by his dad, knowing he was going to get a spanking, he would take the spanking over going back to school. Dewey said it just broke his heart. Obviously, he did not get a spanking that day because he realized then that was so, like, school was so stressful for him. He would have taken any kind of punishment rather than to go back to that class. And so Dewey went and picked him up, took him home, and he never went back to school. He was homeschooled from then on out. And Dewey was his teacher, his learning coach or whatever. He did some cyber academy online. He did some regular homeschooling. And Dewey basically, was his teacher. Well, he did that from second grade to sixth grade. And then when Dewey died, or fifth grade or whatever, but when he died and I was at work, my son had to go back to school. And that was the first time he'd been in public school since he had left in second grade. And he was pretty much on his own. He went to public school and it did not go well. And so he went to public school. Then we tried a charter school, and that did not work. And then we tried another charter school, and that did not work. He just about got suspended at about every school that he went to. And then he finally went to the high school, the public high school, and he got suspended a couple times from there. And it was mostly from hiding in the bathroom. He didn't want to go to class, and it was a lot of anxiety. And so he would rather sit in the bathroom on the toilet for 4 hours rather than go to class. And so, or he would go to the bus and hide in the woods and miss the bus, and then hide in the woods all day, and then come home and act like he had just got back off the bus. So it was more of an avoidance, than was trying to cause problems. And so we finally decided to take him out of school. And he's in Penn Foster now, and he's taking his classes, and he's doing okay academically, but he's real lonely because he doesn't have any friends because he's at home by himself all day. And so that's where we are with him. And then the last one that we thought was doing so good, she was in regular school, then she was in charter school, then she was in another charter school, then regular school. Ever since Dewey got sick, she's always had this thing about everybody hates me. My teachers are mean and she hates me. The kids are mean and they hate me. Everybody hates me. I don't know why she thinks that, but she's been thinking that ever since he got sick. And she doesn't make friends very easily. She wants to, but she always thinks that everybody hates her. And so she's always on the defensive all the time. So this year she started school with me at the middle school that's connected to the school where I teach. And she started hanging out with some questionable characters. And she started wearing some real weird makeup and doing her hair real strange and just acting real weird. And we started her in therapy. And she started getting into this anime, this really dark kind of anime. And it was just worrying us. And so we pulled her out and we put her in Christian school across the street from our house. And she was there for 2 weeks. And I don't even want to tell you what happened because it's embarrassing and I don't want to put her business out there too much. But all I will tell you is that she can no longer attend school anywhere except home for the rest of this year. And we'll have to see. So if you've been watching the Vlogmas, and I've been talking about getting a new job and having an interview and then having to ask my principal to get out of my contract. It's been like this week has been crazy. That's what happened. I found a job as an online teacher so I could teach from home. But in order to take that job, I had to get released from my contract, my teaching contract. And that's a big deal. Like you don't normally do that because you sign a contract for the whole year and it's legally binding. And if you get out of it, you can't just quit. If you quit without their permission, they take your certificate and you can't teach anywhere. So it's pretty serious. And because of the job that I do, it's almost impossible for them to find somebody to replace me for this year. So you're talking about a whole semester of high school kids that have disabilities, that have IEPs, that will not have a case manager, that will not have a helper in their class. They'll have a sub for me. And so I pretty much have had to drop my responsibilities for those students that really need me in order to be able to pick up my responsibility for my own kids. And so it's been a really hard decision to make. It's a huge pay cut, a huge one. And it's a easier responsibility as far as minute to minute at my other job, as opposed to very, very much hands-on teaching. Like the job is a lot harder online, the kind of classes that I'm teaching, and the severity of the deficits of the students that I'll be teaching is a lot more intense. And so I'm taking on more responsibility for a lot less money just so I can stay home so that my kids can be at home. Because Dallas she can't be at school and she can't be by herself at home. Doctor's orders, she cannot. And so she has to be supervised by a grown-up 24/7. And so that was a big problem. But starting in January, we're going to have that. And so I'll be at home with both of the kids all the time, and I'll be working from home. So, these are the sacrifices that we have to make for our children. And here we are 4.5 years out, and my kids are still imploding emotionally. Dallas has just so much anger. The youngest one, she has so much anger, like pushed down inside, that she doesn't even know how to deal with it. And she gets real upset because she can't remember. She can't remember what her dad sounds like. She can't remember what he looks like. We show her pictures and stuff, but she doesn't have real clear memories of things that she's done with him, like memories of doing stuff, because she was only 7 when he died and she's 11 now. And so those memories are fading and it's really upsetting for her because the older kids will talk about, you remember when daddy did so-and-so and you remember when he did this, and she doesn't remember. And so it's really upsetting for her. In addition, the 2 older sisters that were with us, the one of them, she's 24 now and has a child, she lives on her own. So she doesn't live with us anymore. And she's also, just for her personal reasons, has decided to cut ties with us completely. And so she doesn't speak to us anymore. And that really is hurting Dallas's feelings because she feels rejected. And then the next oldest one, the one who had all the issues when she was 15, well, she's 19 now. And she lives on her own because she's grown. She's supposed to be in college, but she has dropped out of college and is supposed to be going back to college. But again, roller coaster, right? She has a hard time sticking with anything because, that's part of her grief. But Dallas doesn't get to see her as much either. They were like Mutt and Jeff. They were together all the time. And so half of her siblings are not in the house anymore. And it's just her and her brother. And so she doesn't have anybody to relate to except for her brother. And he doesn't talk about his feelings very much because he's autistic. So anyway, that's a long story about all the struggles. But the reason why I share this is not to say poor me, because it's not about that. It's about, if you're here, you probably are struggling too. You probably are having issues too. Whether it be with kids, grandkids, other family members, the changing and dynamics of family members, and just the way that things change and how hard it is, when you're grieving. So I know that you guys, if you're watching, you are probably saying, yep, I can relate to that. Yep, I can relate to that too. Just to know that you're not the only person. And to be honest, I have said this from the very beginning, that I didn't realize this until I was into it, but raising children who are grieving is 10 times harder, at least, than dealing with your own grief. And I think that may be why I feel like my grief hasn't been so bad or hasn't been so severe, because I look at how my kids are, what my kids are going through and the struggles that I'm going through with them. And I'm realizing that is the struggle. Like, if it wasn't for that, I think I could have, handled the grief okay. It's grief and it's raw and it's pain, but like, I never realized that the dynamic of, raising kids who've lost their dad at such a young age would impact my life, first of all, so severely, and second of all, for so long. You would think that their dad died a month ago, with the way that they are, like, behaving, and the way that their feelings are still so raw. And they're all in therapy, and they're all on medication, and they're all gifted. They're all really smart. Thank God they're smart, because if they had learning disabilities on top of all this, I don't know that we would be able to handle. So at least they've got, some intelligence, but they're still making really bad decisions. So, and I don't know how to stop that. I don't know how to keep that from happening. I don't know. I don't have any answers for you. I can just tell you that if you're struggling as a solo parent, I feel you. Like, I can relate. So we were talking about the difference between solo parenting and single parenting. I think there's not a whole lot of differences, but just fundamentally it is different, because solo parenting is it's all you. It's you every day, 7 days a week, summers, weekends, holidays. There's no 6-month split. There's no visitation or whatever. This just you all the time. And it is tough. And on top of that, there's no co-parent at all, and the kids are grieving. So it's just tough. And I think it's something that people don't talk about enough. They talk about grieving and how hard it is and how much it hurts. And I'm like, okay, yeah. And I'm preparing myself to go through that process of grief. But, here's the parenting part of it, parenting the grieving kids. I had no idea it was going to be such a monster. And I had no idea how much it was literally going to affect my life every day, from the time he got sick until even now. I'm having to make career changes, because my kids need me. And so I don't know the answer to that. And I don't know if it ever gets any easier. But I'm going to scroll and look at see if there's any chats or questions or anything. If anybody has questions or comments, I'm going to address those in the chat. And then I want to talk a little bit about the course. If you haven't heard about the course, or if you have questions about the course, and just kind of update you on that, answer some questions that I've had. And then if anybody else has any other questions, then I'll do the Q&A. It says, Jay Sunflower, such a vulnerable share, sending love. Thank you so much. That's very sweet. Sometimes I think if we just share our struggles with each other, it kind of helps to know that, wow, I'm not alone. Like, it's not just me that's going through this stuff. It's like, this is kind of what happens. Your own children come first. That's true. Unfortunately, they, whatever it is that you need, whatever you need them, whatever they need, you have to do. And before you lose your spouse, kind of like, it's just the normal, you go to work, you provide for them, you house them, you clothe them, you buy their stuff, and you keep them fed, and, you teach them to be good people. But it's so much more than that when you lose your spouse and you're parenting them alone. So it's just like, it's tough. hoping and praying that everything goes well at home with your kids and also at your new at-home job. So thank you very much. We'll take all of those prayers because we are going to need them. The teaching job is similar. It's still special ed and it's still math. So at least it's in an area that I'm familiar with. That's what I do now is I teach special ed math. But and I'm pretty, except for today's technical difficulty with the live stream, most of the time I'm pretty good with technology. Sue says 4 here and my boys are still, 4 years. I'm thinking 4 years here. My boys are still falling apart like yours. I have one cyclical vomiting and I can't get him help. Okay. Cyclical vomiting. My youngest one went through that too. And let me tell you, I'd never heard of it until the doctor comes through there. I don't know how old your son is, but she was just, I think how it started was her daddy was taking her to school and he was sick and he knew he was dying. And so she would say, "Oh, my stomach hurts, Daddy." And he'd say, "Oh, your stomach hurts? Oh, I think you need to stay home." And so he'd take her home and she'd spend the day with Daddy and they'd have daddy-daughter time. And it became more and more prevalent. Like if I get sick, or if I throw up or if my stomach hurts, then I get to spend the day with Daddy. And so that kind of started like a mental, physical connection there. And then after he died, she just kept puking, and like, it was like several days a week, and she was getting a lot of headaches. And so, and I knew it was real because I saw her throwing up, but she could almost control it. It was like she could turn it on and off at will. She'd be in the car and she's like, "Yeah, my stomach hurts. Are you going to throw up?" "Yeah, but I think I'll wait till I get home." And so 15 minutes later, we'd get home and she'd go to the bathroom and vomit. Before school was a big, she'd eat breakfast or drink something and next thing you know, and she'd be in the bathroom vomiting. Or she'd go to school, "My stomach hurts," go to the nurse. As soon as she starts throwing up at the nurse, they're like, "Yeah, you need to go you need to come pick up your child." And she also knew that if she was vomiting in the morning, I couldn't send her because I could leave her at home with her siblings, but I could not take off from work after sending her to school to go get her. So if she was sick in the morning, she'd get to stay home all day. And so it was easier for me to leave her at home than to try to send her and see if she could make it and then have to take off from work to go get her and bring her home because I really couldn't do that. And so we took her to the doctor. She did every test under the sun, allergy tests, brain tests, MRIs, CAT scans, all the stuff. Nothing physically was wrong with her. And so finally the doctor said, "Yeah, cyclic vomiting." She did give her some like heavy duty Zofran or some other Phenagrin or something like that, to take in emergencies, but like it knocks her out, makes her tired. And so I think it's linked to anxiety. So, and it's kind of stopped over the last year, but it's gotten replaced with her rage and her numb feeling. She said she doesn't feel anything anymore except anger. She doesn't feel sadness. She doesn't feel happiness, no emotion, flat, but anger. And that's it. So cyclic vomiting is, I don't know what the cause of it is, but it almost seems like, well, we don't know what else is wrong. So we're just going to call it that. That's what it seemed like with us. Jenny, thank you for sharing something I need to be aware of. So yeah, Jenny, if you're, they don't talk about single parenting. It helps me a lot. So yeah, it's something that I think we kind of find out trial by fire, like everybody talks about grief a lot for ourselves, but it's almost like we forget to mention about how hard it is to parent these kids. Will you put this on replay? Yes, Barbara. This, when it gets finished recording, when we finish, it will process everything and it will automatically go up. So it'll either be later on today or tomorrow. We got started late too because of technical difficulties, but yes, this will be up as a replay. So you'll be able to catch it later. Chappelle, I think it says, sends a heart. Thank you very much. Sue says he's 22. I can't control it. And we have ended in the ER after he is from anxiety. So I guess I guess some people physically just manifest that from their mental state more than others. So, and on top of that, my daughter has a really weak stomach anyway. Like she can't take any liquid medicine. If it touches her tongue, any like kind of weird taste, any weird smell, she's weak stomach anyway. And so on top of that, I guess with the anxiety, when it starts coming up, it starts going. So I don't have an answer for you either, except maybe if you can figure out, the anxiety, treat the anxiety, not the physical. because if it's the anxiety that's causing it, then if you can figure out either an anxiety medication that your doctor can prescribe, or whether it be therapy, or whether it be, I don't know all the answers, but I'm thinking that maybe if you can get the anxiety a little more under control, maybe then it won't manifest into those physical symptoms. But I don't know how long you've been dealing with it. Dallas went through it for probably for 3 or 4 years, and it's just now over the last year started to kind of level out. So I feel for you, and I know it's probably hard on him too. And for a long time, I thought she was just faking, or she was just making it happen to get out of school, and that may have been how it started. But that's really a hard one, especially when you don't have any physical answer, because then you can't treat it with some medicine or whatever. So I don't know what Ann Little is putting out there, so I'm not really sure what that stands for. But okay, so if there's any other questions, where is the best place to find therapy? Everyone here has a 6-month waiting list. There are now, my kids they went to a regular therapist in person, and then we went to online. Then all the therapists started doing online. Getting in takes a long time, but once you get in, if you're on a regular rotation weekly or every other week, then you can keep going. But getting that first appointment usually takes a long time, because everyone right now going through this pandemic and everything is booked. And so, especially when you're talking about trying to find some place for kids, but your son's 22, so he could probably go to anyone who treats for adults. There's also a couple places online that are just like, I think there's one called onlinetherapy.com or something like that. Like, it's just general. It's not to your area. I don't know if how your insurance works, but there's a few places where you can just do online therapy and get an appointment that way. So you might be able to get in quicker that way, at least get started while you're on a waiting list for somebody in person. There's also, I don't know if you attend church or if you're averse to attending church, but there's some churches have some therapy. Our church actually has a whole therapy session. I mean, it's in a different building, but it's underneath the church umbrella. And my kids go to therapy there. It's Christian based, and it is free. Like, no insurance, no cash. And they go every other week. And it's been very helpful. And it's right next door to us, so it's even more helpful. And then I know there's something called Grief Share, but I don't know if that's specifically for spouses or if it's for anybody who's lost a family member. If anybody knows about Grief Share, if it's who it's for exactly, because I've never been. I've heard really good things about it, but I don't know if it's for just, spouses, or if your son could go to something like that. But maybe look it up and see if there's something possible for that. That would be a group, like more group therapy. So those are, and then just keep calling. If you have insurance, go to your insurance website, and then, or sometimes they have customer service. You could call them and tell them what you're looking for, and they can put it in the search and kind of, start closest to your house and then spread it out farther, however far you're willing to go. And since so many of them do online anyway, my kids go to a psychiatrist that's 2 hours away because he doesn't take patients in person. He only does online anyway. So it doesn't really matter. So if you're open to doing online therapy, you might be able to find somebody a little bit easier. So I don't know. That's kind of more general. I don't know if that was a specific help, but maybe that'll give you a place to start searching. So the last thing I wanted to do is talk about the course that we have. You remember we have a course. It's called the 28-day grief pivot course, but I think a lot of people are thinking that it just takes place in 28 days, and it doesn't. I called it 28 days because it's 28 lessons, 28 daily lessons, but you can do one lesson a day. You can do one lesson a week. You can do one lesson whenever you feel like it. You can do 3 lessons in a day, but it's 28 daily lessons that you can, view and see the resources for, and think about and do the exercises for at your pace. You have forever access to the course. Once you sign up, the course it'll go live on the January 1st, but you'll have access to it from January 1st until forever. The only thing that's limited to that 1 month is the Facebook group that you'll be invited to with the live sessions. We'll have 4 live sessions, and we'll have daily journal entries that we talk about, and then we'll just have chat. And so that will be open for the month of January, and then it will close. And that we can kind of talk about what kind of progress you're making, answer questions, and talk with each other. So that's the 1 month thing, but the actual course is forever. Um, so like I said, it's going to open January 1st. The price does include the month of January for the Facebook. After the first month, when we get some feedback and we work out whatever tweaks we want to work out, the Facebook part will be an extra. So it'll be like you can just buy the course by itself for the same price that it's going for now. So it depends on how old the kids are. I think it would be good for anybody. If they're younger, then the parents could go through with them. If they're teenagers or young adults, then yes, because it's not about just losing your spouse. It's about grief in general. So it's about if you're in a low point of grief and you're tired of like swimming in grief all the time, that's where the pivot comes from. It's just general exercises for you that are very, very targeted towards different topics that would help. So yes, like let's say you've got some teenagers, if they're willing to do it and participate, or maybe y'all can do it together. So yes, it's not just for the spouses. If you had some kids, they could benefit from it too. We talk about, you know, just things that are of general health, but I did some research on every topic to try to find scientific based information of things that you could train your brain to talk to you in a different way, because you follow what your brain tells you to do. You're following the directions of your own brain. So it's to teach your brain to tell yourself to react in a different way, or to think in a different way, or to talk to yourself in a different way. And so every lesson is retraining your brain to think in a different way, because the way you think now, if you've been in grief for months and months and months, grief is now a habit for you. And so we have to unlearn the habit of grief and relearn the habit of happy or joy or purpose or whatever it is that we need to, transform from grief to growth in some way. And so we talk about sleep, we talk about exercise, we talk about food, we talk about quiet and introspection. We talk about setting goals. We talk about how to get motivated. We talk about moving before you feel like doing something before you feel like doing it. And then your brain will follow eventually after. And there's so many different topics. And if one of the daily topics does not really pertain to you or doesn't speak to you, or it's not something that's an issue for you, then the next one definitely will be. So out of 28, probably at least 20 of them will be something that will benefit you in some way. And then you can go back later if you feel like you're slipping and do it again. There'll be some motivation in there and some things that'll make you think a certain way and be, wow, I didn't think about that. When you listen to somebody and they say something and it just kind of clicks with you the way they say it, and you're like, wow, I never thought about it that way. Hopefully you'll get a few little tidbits from there as well. And I'm going to be following along too, because there's some areas that I know what to do. I just don't follow my own advice sometimes. So I'm hoping it's going to be a grief pivot for me too. I haven't been eating right. I haven't been exercising. I haven't been sleeping like I need to. And so it's going to be good for me too, because I'm going to have to follow my own advice. So if you, I'm going to put the link in there where you can find it. So it's www.onehappywidow.com, trying to type it, /courses. And you can find that. It'll be a page for courses. There's only one course on there right now, and it's the pivot course. So you can go in there and you can purchase, and what it'll do is just put you on the docket. And then on the first, the course will open up with all the information. The Facebook group will open up with all the, with everybody on the members, and it'll be ready to go. So we've got a few more weeks that you can get in there and get a spot. And I don't know if there's any other, I'm seeing something that keeps coming through. So I don't know if that's like spammy something or something. I'm not really sure. But so yeah. So basically, yeah, if you're at that point, like if you're in fresh grief, it's probably not the course for you, because you need to like think about surviving right now and just getting through the day. But if you're in between that stage and you're thinking, I'm ready to, turn around my grief and like get out of this hole that I'm in, this will definitely help you. It will give you some direction. It will give you some mindset shifts. It will give you some specific exercises to do, that will train your brain to think a different way. And So if you feel like you're at that point, then definitely check it out. And if you have questions, you can email. And so there you go. So that's pretty much all I have to say. Anybody else have any questions, any comments about solo parenting, any questions about the course, anything like that? Now is a good time to put it out there. I think I pretty much covered all the questions that are in there. So, all right. And I do apologize for being late and not having to figure out how this, I don't even know what I did wrong. So I got to go back and figure out how to not do that again. But anyway, it is what it is. It's technology and we have to kind of go with the flow. But it looks like we don't have any other questions. People are starting to log off. So we're going to go ahead and cut this and call it a wrap. And this recording will be online either later today or tomorrow. So you'll be able to view it if you missed the beginning. And go check out the course. Go subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Join our Facebook group if you haven't already. Sign up for our email list. There's all kinds of ways to get connected. If you are unsure, you can email me at onehappywidow@gmail.com and ask me anything that you need. So thank you so much for the people who've showed up. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found this at least to be making you feel like you're not alone and that, there is help out there. And if I can't get it to you, I can help you, point you in the right direction somewhere. I'm pretty good at research. So, I'm willing to get in there and try to help whoever needs help. So, all right. Thank you guys for showing up and we'll see you next time. Bye. Cover that up.